Coming up on Hoosier Sports Night, the men's soccer team looks to continue their Big Ten tournament run in Westfield this weekend.
And following a good start to the season, Indiana basketball seeks to win for a second time in a row as it plays once again at Assembly Hall. This is Hoosier Sports Night. Welcome into Hoosier Sports Night. Glad to see you. I am Juan Diego Alvarado.
And I'm Maya Engel. After 6 seasons as head coach of the Indiana women's soccer team, head coach Amy Burberry will not have her contract renewed, according to an IU athletic press release. Burberry's Hoosiers dropped 7 of their last 9 games to close out the 2018 campaign en route to an 8-8-2 season. She took over before the 2013 season, where she led Indiana to a 15-7-1 record, but couldn't climb past the 500 mark in her remaining 5 seasons at the helm. Athletic director Fred Glass said, "We thank Amy for her hard work and dedication to Indiana University. I have tremendous respect for Amy and wish her well in her future endeavors." Assistant coaches Danielle Bizard and Sandy Davidson will remain with the team until a new head coach is hired. Coach Burberry exits IU with an overall record of 46 wins, 54 losses, and 18 ties. The search for the new head coach has already begun, according to the release.
Indiana men's soccer continues its quest for new hardware as it travels to Westfield, Indiana for the semifinal of the Big Ten tournament. Following its 2-1 overtime win versus number 8 Northwestern, the number 1 seed IU goes to Westfield, Indiana, to play in the semifinals of the Big Ten tournament versus number 5 Maryland. This weekend, IU head coach Todd Yeagley will not count once again with his main attackers, Justin Rennicks and Griffin Dorsey, who continue to have good performances while on tour with the U.S. men's national team under 20s. However, confidence is on the side of the available squad, and the Hoosiers seek to repeat their outcome of the regular season match when they beat Maryland 2-1. The semifinal clash is scheduled for 1 p.m. Friday, and fans can watch the game on the Big Ten Network or follow updates on our social media accounts at IUSTV Sports.
Basketball season is finally back, and it was freshman Romeo Langford who led the way for the Hoosiers in their season opener against Chicago State. Our Dan Black has the recap.
Well, we have one in the books, and it's always good to get the first one, out of the way with a win.
Basketball is officially back in Bloomington for the 119th season, and from what we saw this evening, it should be a fun one. The Hoosiers used their home court advantage in Game 1 of the campaign, beating the Chicago State Cougars 104-55. IU came out hot and didn't let up all first half, with the story coming from the start. Romeo Langford, the number 5 recruit in the nation and the 18-year-old tasked with helping turn the Indiana program back into relevancy, went off in the first 20 minutes, scoring 17 of his 19 total points in that stretch. Langford credits his off-season preparation for getting him ready for this spectacular debut.
Trainers before I got here like in June, and then also just the preparation from the coaching staff from June all the way until preseason.
From the look of it, IU couldn't ask for any more positive takeaways from tonight's game. Langford and his teammates found some things that the numbers didn't tell.
I think one of the big things is guys that might not usually play as much, they get quality minutes, and that could be big for our team moving forward, just because you never know when you're going to get your chance to get out there. So it's good for guys that don't play as much to get experience, and you want to try to not get complacent at any point, so just keep pushing it like we did.
The Hoosiers will look to use the momentum of this big team victory as they look ahead to Friday when they play host to Montana State. For IUSTV Sports, I'm Dan Black.
If you can't make it out to Simon Scott Assembly Hall on Friday, you can catch the game on BTN at 8 o'clock.
Women's basketball is back, and they started off the season on Wednesday night. Reporter Tamar Scher has the story.
The Hoosiers were fighting tooth and nail all game as they ultimately pulled away with a 68-66 win against Milwaukee.
The game marked IU's 6th straight season opener on their home court, and with a win, it marks them undefeated so far under head coach Terry Morin. In this matchup, the two teams were neck and neck, but although it was close many times, the Hoosiers managed to stay in the lead at the end of each quarter. Point guard Allie Patberg led in shooting by the end of the first half, while Brenna Wise stole the title by the end of the game as her intensity peaked. While both players admitted to seeing improvement from the exhibition, the place they critiqued was their defense.
I think we made improvements from our exhibition to this, and again, like Ali said, we've got room for improvements, but I think defensively, I mean, we all know the cliche saying, offense sells tickets, defense wins games. We got to play defense, and so we got to continue to work on that end of the floor because the offense will come.
Yeah, offensively, we didn't hit shots that I think we normally will. So again, defense wins games, and that's what we did. We made a stop at the end to win it.
Defensively are still a work in progress. There's no question about that. We got a long ways to go to be as good as we need to be for Big Ten play. But give Milwaukee a lot of credit. That's a really good team, well coached, good pieces. Got an inside presence, got shooters on the outside. So was very impressed with Milwaukee tonight.
All in all, Milwaukee served as a great matchup for the Hoosiers, and the game takeaways will prove to be very helpful as IU goes up against future high-energy opponents. For IUS TV Sports, I'm Tamar Scher.
Up next, the women's basketball team will travel to Rochester, Michigan to take on Oakland University. Then the Hoosiers will return to Assembly Hall to take on North Florida.
The Hoosier volleyball team will hit the road this weekend and play back-to-back games against two top 10 teams. The Hoosiers have entered the most difficult portion of their schedule. On Saturday, IU played number 13 Purdue in West Lafayette. It was a back and forth battle, but ultimately IU came up just short in the 5th set, falling to the Boilermakers. The road only gets tougher as IU has road games against number 3 Minnesota and number 8 Wisconsin on back-to-back nights. The Hoosiers will then be home for 3 games, including 2 against the top 15 teams in Purdue and Nebraska. At 15-10 overall and 6-8 in the Big Ten, head coach Steve Aird has already taken large steps forward in Bloomington. IU sits on the fringe of the NCAA tournament picture. The team has shown it can hang around with some of the top-tier Big Ten teams, and it has a chance to improve its resume, possibly giving it enough to earn a tournament bid for the first time since 2010. Following this weekend's road trip, the Hoosiers have a 3-game homestand, starting with Iowa next Friday.
And when Hoosier Sports Night continues, we will take a look at Tom Allen and Hoosier football and preview one of their final home games of the season.
And it might not be spring just yet, but there was plenty of baseball action over the weekend. You're watching Hoosier Sports Night.
Welcome back to Hoosier Sports Night. With only 3 games left of the season, IU football seeks to add its 5th win as it plays a big conference game in Bloomington this weekend. Jimmy Sutton has the story.
After a week off, the Indiana football team is back in action as they take on Maryland Saturday. And after reflecting on their last game, the Hoosiers will look to come out on top in this one.
The way that they shift, move, adjust, motion, different things that they do, it forces you to be extremely disciplined. If you get out of position, they're very, very athletic, and they can you make one guy miss, and it's a big play. So they really survive off big plays. It's kind of their the way they've had success this season. So to me, the key is gap integrity, discipline with our eyes. We got to be great tacklers.
Indiana comes into this one leading the all-time series against the Terrapins 4-2, including 2 recent wins at home. And for the Hoosiers to extend their series lead, it'll come down to pressuring the Maryland quarterback, Kasim Hill, and forcing him to make mistakes. Kasim Hill has just 3 interceptions on the season, and Indiana's defensive backs will have to capitalize off his few mistakes by adding to their 20 takeaways this season. Indiana's offense will look to continue their hot streak through Ramsey, Scott, and Westbrook after scoring 22 straight points against Minnesota.
Well, we just had other things that happened in some of those verticals throws that we had, whether it was the receiver or protection or whatever it may be. It just didn't. We didn't execute those. Whereas then we were executing them in those particular drives. So I think just execution more than anything.
The offense and defense will need to succeed as the Terrapins come to Bloomington in an important game for both teams as the season winds down. Maryland is just 1 game away from bowl eligibility, and Indiana is 2 games away. Matt Canada and Tom Allen will go head-to-head in a game that could go down to the wire.
The crucial game that could play a role in Indiana's bowl eligibility will happen right here on Saturday at noon. For IUS TV Sports, I'm Jimmy Sutton.
The game will be broadcasted on the Big Ten Network, and this will be the Hoosiers' last home game before the Old Oaken Bucket game versus who else than rival Purdue.
The baseball team wrapped up fall play over the weekend as the Hoosiers competed against each other in the Fall World Series. Our Austin Machicardi has more.
It's a new year for Hoosier baseball, and there are plenty of new faces, new coaches, new players, and plenty of new holes to fill in the lineup. Gone are stars like Logan Sowers, John Stever, and Luke Miller, so who might step up in the spring? Maybe Drew Ashley. Over the weekend, IU hosted their Fall World Series, a 3-game set between squads led by catchers Ryan Feynman and Wyatt Cross. In the series, Ashley hit over 400 with a pair of doubles and a solo home run, but his value to Team Feynman went beyond the stat line.
Well, it's funny because Drew and I were hitting in here before the game, and he's like, man, I just don't have my swing today. I go into the plate with my C swing, and I'm like, dude, like, I was waiting for it to happen. I knew it was going to happen. He had a great game today and played good D too. Drew likes to be a little. He tries to annoy us out there on the bases, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
After a standout freshman season for the Cream and Crimson, Drew Ashley got even better this offseason, thanks to a lot of hard work.
The thing with Drew was Drew wasn't terrific at the base stealing, the base running stuff early in the fall, but you watch the way that he works. He stays late, he comes early, he's out in the outfield by himself, he's on the bases by himself, practicing his returns and his jumps, and he's really invested himself. When you look at a day like today, and you see a lot of work come to fruition in a successful way.
With fall ball coming to a close, we won't get to see Ashley and the Hoosiers again for quite some time, but surely there's plenty of work to be done. For IUS TV Sports, I'm Austin Machicardi.
The Hoosiers won't be back in action until February when they take on Memphis in their regular season opener.
The Indiana wrestling team started their season this past weekend with a duel at Virginia on Saturday before competing in the Hockey Open tournament on Sunday. Freshman Paul Conrad started things off for the Hoosiers in his collegiate debut on Saturday, winning his duel by a 10-3 decision to put Indiana up 3-0. The next 4 Hoosiers fell in their duels before Buddy Conley got Indiana back on the winning track, prevailing 7-5 in sudden victory. Senior Elijah Oliver was the only other Hoosier to win on the day as the Hoosiers dropped their opener to Virginia 25-12. On Sunday, the Hoosiers were able to find a good amount of success in the Hockey Open. Bryce Martin had the best finish for IU, placing second in his division after barely losing in the finals by an 8-6 decision. Paul Conrad found more success as he finished in 3rd place in his division. Other Hoosiers to finish in the top 5 were Elijah Oliver and Jake Danishek, who both finished 4th in their respective divisions. The Hoosiers will be back in action this Friday on the road at SIU Edwardsville. The duels will start at 7 p.m.
The Indiana women's tennis team closed out their fall season with a 5-team tournament in Kalamazoo, Michigan. 4 different Hoosiers competed in the Western Michigan Super Challenge, combining for a record of 6-6 in singles and 2-5 in doubles. Almost all of IU's production came from 2 players, junior Anna McCoy and sophomore Jelly Bozovich. As a doubles team, they picked up both of IU's victories, and individually, they grabbed 5 single wins as well. In fact, McCoy won her first match without dropping a single game, and Bozovich never lost a set in her 3 singles matches. After finishing up their fall slate, the women's tennis team won't take the court again until they host the Indiana Winter Invitational in January. Well, that does it for our show this week. But before you tune out, don't forget to like our page, IUSTV Sports, on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at IUSTV Sports. For Juan Diego Alvarado, I'm Maya Engel, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.